This feature is brought to you by the National Bank of the Virgin Islands, Cyril B. Ramney Tertola Pier Park, and Digicel. Sign up for Digicel Plus Home Light bundles, faster internet, movies, and sports. Residents across sections of Districts 7 and 8 are now one step closer to relief, as long-standing sewage problems may finally be coming to an end.
This has been a project where we recommissioned a few years ago, and today we are just here to give an update as to where we are in the process, how soon we expect that this project will be completed, and we'll also be urging the residents in the area to connect to the sewage system.
Certainly, I would encourage persons to hook up as quickly as possible, because what will not be allowed is for persons' water to be running on the road. That's not going to be allowed. So that's not a matter of choice.
I support the project. We were here 5 years ago when we initially started the process. Nonetheless, it's been a delayed process, but we're here. I'm still concerned about the Long Swamp area. Premier and Minister from Parham Town through Long Swamp, and I'm hopeful that we could get that started in earnest. But I do want to encourage persons in Long Look, Fat Hogs Bay, neighboring Long Swamp, Greenland, to connect to the systems.
So we're hopeful that persons would sign up. It's critical, because without you signing up, we can't get the sewage off the street. So it's important. Reach out to the Water and Sewage Department and do what is necessary. Fill out the application forms, and then the ministry, the department would take it from there in engaging with all the residents and business owners.
Contractors are moving quickly to complete a critical phase of the upgrade, but it comes with a temporary disruption. At least 5 days of road closures are expected to facilitate this major component of the project.
The Long Swamp pump station, this is an advisory for the motoring public that in order for us to complete the last phase of the installation of the manhole here for this project, we would be issuing a road closure starting 9:30 a.m. on the 22nd of September, and we will be reopening the road on the 27th of September. So we are asking the motorists to be mindful of the signs, be mindful of the closure. We also ask for your patience, and we also ask for motorists to use alternate routes to traverse this area.
On September 15, 2025, media representatives were invited to an interactive briefing where project leaders outlined the progress made so far and what's ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. With the Ministry of Communication and Works, I am Dean the Sportsman Greenaway, the Communications Officer. We are here to talk about the Long Swamp pump station, and with us today we have the Minister of Communication and Works, Honorable Kairaima, and 5th District Representative, who is the lead of this project and is delivering it for the people in the 7th and 8th districts. We also have the Premier, we have the District Representative, we have representatives from BioSafe, we have the Permanent Secretary, persons from Water and Sewage. So without any further ado, I will turn you over now to the Minister of Communication and Works to make his remarks.
Thank you, Dean. Good afternoon, good day to the listening and viewing public. As Dean mentioned, we're here at the Long Swamp Pump Station. This has been a project where we recommissioned a few years ago, and today we are just here to give an update as to where we are in the process, how soon we expect that this project will be completed, and we'll also be urging the residents in the area to connect to the sewage system. We have asked via media that residents reach out to the Water and Sewage Department to sign up so that we can be able to for this project to take sewage So we're here again to encourage persons to sign up. There will be some details that will be given by the from the ministry in terms of how do you connect, the length of time that it will be free for the service, and what the ministry will be responsible for, and that includes getting the connection done, and that responsibility will be done by the Ministry of Communications and Works. And I must say thanks to the Honorable Premier for providing the funds so that we can be able to actually be able for the residents to connect to this Long Swamp sewage station, pump station, and that will be able to take the sewage down to Paraquita Bay. That will be soon commissioned as well, just for residents in the area to be able to flush with confidence. So we are here just to give that update, and I will then encourage the representatives, that includes the Premier and also the representative from the 8th District, Honorable Marlon Penn, as well as the Premier, to speak about, encouraging persons to be able to sign up, as I mentioned, for this long-awaited sewage project. So before I go into the details, I think it's necessary for us to understand where we at with the project. And I would ask BioSafe, who is the contractor, as well as the project manager, Mr. Maduro, to give an explanation as to where we're at, what is next, and then the ministry will then be able to speak about what is to be expected from the residents and the community within this area. BioSafe.
Good day. Thank you, Honorable Minister, for this opportunity to sensitize the public basically on what we are doing here at the Long Swamp Pump Station. We are about 85% complete. As you can see behind us, the power is already in. It hasn't been connected. We're still waiting on some key panels to come in, which is supposed to be within this week. And we are still waiting on one last leg to do, which is the leg between VI blocks and coming into here. So basically, I should say, give or take next month or two, we should be able to start finalizing, closing up, and just doing the final touches on this project. But so far, it has been a challenge, but it has been great, a great experience. And thank you again for the ability of giving us this contract to prove that the Virgin Islands really need this sewage connection to take the sewage running off of Greenland streets and also Long Look. So I will give you over to my project manager, which he will give you in-depth more details.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Marquis Maduro of Project Management and Construction Solutions. As you've heard from my colleague, Con Mitchell of BioSafe, that we are about 85% completed. The last major leg that we have to have done is the last manhole that needs to come in from VI block to make the connection into all of the infrastructure that you see in and around here today. That is one of the things, once we're concluded with this press conference, we'll discuss with the minister when we will be able to get the last road closure to have this works done. Simultaneously, we'll be having the electrical done. We'll have the electrical inspected and the pumps tested in that time frame. I would be leaning more so to a month because I know the minister is keen on having this project wrapped up. If we do have delays, obviously you have weather. We're in the heart of September now, and as you can see, it's raining as we're having this conversation. So that does pose some challenges. But as long as we get clear skies, we're trying to see how we can have this wrapped up within a month. I really, as my colleague said, we do appreciate the fact that this opportunity has been given to us as Virgin Islanders to have this project done. And I'm sure and I hope the minister, including the Premier and the representative of the 8th, is pleased with the work done so far. And we look forward to partnering with them in the future on other infrastructural works. Thank you.
Good day to everyone. My name is Dwayne Freight, Chief of Infrastructural Development in the Ministry of Communication and Works. As you would have heard as well from the contractor BioSafe as well as the minister, this Long Swamp pump station is part of the holistic Eastern Long Look sewage project. But it also serves as a major component. It serves as the main collection system for all the sewage that will be collected from Eastern Long Look and the environs that would then eventually be pumped down to the treatment plant at Paraquita Bay. As the contractors would have indicated, we're hopeful to have the station commissioned within the next month and a half. And what that would mean, which is why the genesis of why we're here as well, is so that persons can be able to connect to our sewage system. Once the station is commissioned, it effectively means that we can receive sewage that we can pump to the treatment plant. What the ministry is going to be providing to residents is, first and foremost, we want you to come and sign up with the Water and Sewage Department You can reach out. The information will be shared in terms of where persons can call to the Water and Sewage Department, as well as what they need to provide to the Water and Sewage Department via our application form that will be provided. The purpose of that is that in order for the sewage system to work, we need to receive sewage from the residents, which is the whole part and parcel of why we're here. What the ministry is going to be providing is, and I know persons may be asking the question, how can I connect to the sewage system? The ministry is going to be providing all the resources, all the works in terms of any costs associated with persons coming to connect to the system until 2026. So if you're seeing this video, you're hearing the news and the information going out and what have you, this is the opportunity now before the end of 2026 to come and connect onto the sewage system. Now, what we will be doing is this. Once you come and sign up with the Water and Sewage Department, your information will be collated, and then we will be sending out assessors to assess your property to see how best we can get you connected onto the sewage system. There would be situations where we would have to come into the property based on the assessments in order to make the connections, and that would be determined based on the assessments at that point. We will then update the property owner or the resident, whomever that may be, that, okay, we need to come in, this is what we need to do, and the inconveniences obviously that will be entailed, but we as a ministry will be engaging private contractors and with the oversight of Water and Sewage Department to make those connections onto the sewage system. So we're hopeful that persons will come and sign up. We're hopeful that persons will do the necessary things in terms of signing up, making themselves available. In some cases, we may need to meet you on site once you sign up so that you can be able to walk through, explain to the assessors where your sewage system discharges, probably where your septic tank is located or where your soakaway is located. So there's a lot more entailed information that's required, and that's why we're encouraging persons now, so that once the system goes live, and this is the key part of it, in order for the system to work in a functional manner, we need as much persons in the environs to sign up. So I'll just give you an illustration of where the environs is. Currently, we have collection systems in place in Greenland. We have collection systems in place in the Fat Hogs Bay area, and we have collection systems in place in Longlow. So that's the first primary focus, although we still would have collection systems to be developed coming down from Chapel Hill all the way down to Long Swamp. But we are going through a process to obtain a major contractor to put that collection system in place. So the first focus right now is residents and businesses in Greenland, businesses and residents in Longlow environs, as well as Fat Hogs Bay. So we're hopeful that persons who live in these areas or the businesses that operate in these areas would come and sign up. They would engage with the department, engage with the ministry, so that we can come out and make that preliminary assessment. Afterwards, we'll update the owners in terms of what the situation is, and then we'll go from there in terms of making the connections. As I mentioned before, residents, business owners should not have to worry in terms of a cost coming to them. The cost to make the connections, the cost to do all of the trenching and so forth will be done by the ministry. So all of that will be borne by the ministry, and all the works will be undertaken by the ministry in conjunction, obviously, with the Water and Sewage Department. So we're hopeful that persons will sign up. It's critical, because without you signing up, we can't get the sewage off the streets. So it's important. Reach out to the Water and Sewage Department and do what is necessary. Fill out the application forms, and then the ministry, the department, would take it from there in engaging with all the residents and business owners. I thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
Oh.
A quick one here. Isn't it mandatory that every household or building sign up?
It's not mandatory because there's no specific legislation, but in order to enhance, obviously, our environmental health, in terms of sewage running on the street, we see a lot of grey water in several communities running on the street. It is, I won't say mandatory, but it's necessary that persons sign up to ensure, we're encouraging them to sign up, because we want to ensure that our communities, we have, a clean environment in terms of the sewage that's on the streets. We want to ensure that as our students, as our children walk through the streets, we're not having any issues with diseases or whatever the case may be. Vehicles are driving in it. So we want persons as much as possible to sign up. Thank you.
I thank all the speakers before me explaining and expressing the encouragement for residents to sign up. This is the approach that we have taken, where we encourage the district representatives to also be a part of this project and to encourage their constituents to also sign up. As you would have heard, the importance of making sure that our streets are free from the grey water and make sure that our environment is safe for the pedestrians and motorists alike. So, representative from the 8th, Honorable Penn, I would let you speak first and then have the Premier basically wrap up it, as you know, most of it affects his community as well in this interim.
Good afternoon. I want to thank the Premier, the Minister, for inviting me to this groundbreaking for actually getting the project started in terms of connections. I support the project. We were here 5 years ago when we initially started the process. Nonetheless, it's been a delayed process, but we're here. I'm still concerned about the Long Swamp area, Premier and Minister from Parham Town through Long Swamp, and I'm hopeful that we could get that started in earnest. But I do want to encourage persons in Long Look, Fathogs Bay, neighboring Long Swamp, Greenland, to connect to the systems. We all know the challenge that we've had with sewage in our community for decades. It's something that has been a crying song for anyone who has been on a political platform about the sewage issue. We're one step further to addressing this issue. And I just want to encourage the persons in our community to get connected. Additionally, though, there's some additional areas, Minister, that we need to address, where we need to put the laterals in. I know your project team and the ministry is aware of those areas. Then while we're in this process, it's important for us to ensure that all the major areas within Greenland in particular are connected to the system. And we need to extend the network to those persons who are having some difficulties right now. We see the challenges, particularly around the graveyard area, and we need to ensure that that situation is addressed. So I support this project and look forward for us continuing the extension up into Parham Town, Greater Eastern area, which is also having some serious issues with sewage. But for now, I'm happy that we're at least going to get Long Look, Fathogs Bay, and Greenland connected, so at least we can start to get the sewage off the streets of our community. I thank you again, Minister, and the Ministry.
Yeah, good day to the people of the Virgin Islands. Good day to the people of the 7th and the 8th districts. I want to acknowledge the Minister of Communications and Works, Honorable Kairima, and his entire team, as well as the representative for the 8th district. And of course, I am the Premier, but most importantly, in this instance, I am the representative for the people of the 7th district. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the Ministry of Communications and Works, the Water and Sewage Department, the entire team. I want to thank BioSafe, the project manager, everybody involved in this project. The fact that we are here encouraging residents to sign on to the system or to hook up to the system is a sign that we are nearing completion. And it's been a long journey. You know, for this administration, we started in the previous administration, but we know that this project will be a great source of pride for us to deliver this for the people of the 7th and the 8th districts. The sewage is a nuisance. Persons complain a lot about the roads, but from my observation, one of the main challenges in terms of the roads is the water which are running from various households on the road. Because we know that asphalt is no friend to sewage. And of course, it makes havoc on the road. And being good stewards of our community, being good neighbors, it's important for us to ensure that we are responsible in terms of how we dispose of our sewage water, our sewage, etc. And we have a sewage system that we have invested a great deal of money, a great deal of time, a great deal of energy, and the only way that it will be able to function properly, and the reason why we did all of this in the first place, are for those persons in their homes to hook up to the system. We know persons have septic tanks, but when we have multiple apartments, that septic tank can't handle all of the sewage going into those septic tanks. So let us not fool ourselves. This sewage system is direly needed because certainly the septic tank situations with the size of our population here in the 7th and the 8th districts, we always say that this is one of the biggest population centers in the Virgin Islands. Between the 7th and the 8th districts, I'm not going to say if you're going to be a bigger residential area than that. And of course, with a big population comes sewage and other pressing needs. I'm grateful as well for the work that's taking place at Paraquita Bay with the sewage treatment plant. Looking forward to that being commissioned soon. And as the contractor and the project manager said, you know, the last initial hookup into the system so that we can transport the sewage down to Paraquita Bay. And of course, I want to say on this platform that as a government, we're committed to ensuring that the rest of the works throughout the 8th district is done. The financing will be made available to get all of those things done. I'll give Honorable Penn and the people of the 8th district my assurance for that. The question was asked whether it's mandatory. It's not mandatory yet, but certainly I would encourage persons to hook up as quickly as possible, because what will not be allowed is for persons' water to be running on the road. That's not going to be allowed. So that's not a matter of choice. So if you don't have adequate provision for your sewage disposal, the best thing to do is to hook up so that we don't have to take it to the next level, because of course we already have provision through environmental health to take persons to court, and we don't necessarily have to go down there. Let's just do the responsible thing. Hook into the system if you don't have the adequate provisions for sewage disposal, and let's keep our communities beautiful. Let's keep them clean. Let's keep them healthy. Again, I want to thank our minister and your team. We certainly appreciate it in the 7th and 8th districts, and we're looking forward to the completion of this project.
Premier, there might be a lot of people who would want to, Premier and Minister for Works, might want to differ from what you would have said, to say that, you know, the septic tank system is one that may not be adequate for certain residents and can contribute to a continuation of the situation that we have. Does the government see it necessary that you legislate to ensure that it becomes mandatory that everyone connects, so we don't have to go the route that you say you would not love to go, and that is to the court of law?
Well, I think it's a matter for discussion with the government, but I'll put it this way. Just like I said before, we can't have sewage running on the streets, or the sewage water running on the streets. So that's our main concern. But for the standpoint of the residents as well, we've been spending a lot of money putting in septic tanks, soak away. So it's actually a benefit for the resident. If they don't have to spend that money, they can put that money into building up a nice little wall to secure their property or whatever else they need to do. So it is a benefit for the community. As you speak about legislation, of course, when you make legislation for the entire Virgin Islands, and not all places will have access to a sewage system. So at this particular point, what I would just say is we encourage persons to sign up and hook up on the system, and certainly it's not going to be tolerated any persons running their sewage water or the sewage into the roads, into the guts, whatever it is.
Are you guys actually hooking up anybody currently, or are you just taking applications? I just want to clarify.
Thank you for that question. We are actually taking, we are encouraging persons to sign up at this moment, and the department will go out and do the assessment, and then we'll be ready to hook up to the system. So, the encouragement is to get people to sign up, and then we will then eventually hook up, because once we commission, the plant would be needing sewage effluent. So we're expecting that persons would, have enough sewage based on the system and the demand to be able to use. So that's where we're at right now, and that's why we're here, to encourage the residents. And we have taken a bipartisan approach where we have representatives just being here, encouraging their constituents to come out and be able to hook up to the system.
And when are you expecting it to be commissioned?
Well, the project manager said this plan should be ready in about 6 weeks for commissioning, and Paraquita Bay should be around the same timeline. So we're expecting both plans to be ready around the same time.
Mr. Marquis, you spoke about needing to dig another
Yes.
one other. The question would be why this was not done during the period you had a reasonably lengthy closure of this main road here in East End.
Okay. You said lengthy. I don't think it was lengthy. I don't think it was lengthy, but there was a closure. There was one small, I'd say, concern that we had that we shared with the ministry over the profile of that manhole that comes from this way, and we were able to sit and rectify it. What I didn't want to do, again, is have a lengthy closure. So if I had kept it closed and we were trying to rectify that, I found and we discussed with the minister, it would have been an inconvenience to the residents. And if anyone recalls, when we had that closure, it was right before the last weather system. So I think we had closed up the road like the Friday evening, and then we had the weather. So with that being said, we would have had the road open. So if you had if the storm really came and you had a disaster for ambulances and stuff to go through, it would have been a real inconvenience. So we decided to close, rectify the small little concern, nothing major, just sometimes you want to make sure before you actually take up the government road that you actually know what you're going to do. So that's what it is, but we'd like to go forward now. And then obviously, because we do transport of material and fill, we have to work in tandem with the ministry's other project, which is down in Fat Hogs Bay, because then when that road is closed, it's a little more challenging for us to do what we have to do, because then trafficking our material over the hill could lead to issues. And then if we have a malfunction, then you block basically the thoroughfare from the airport, blocked on the low end and the high end, and then the minister would call, because nobody gonna call me, they'll call him. So we have to work together, and then if they don't call, the rep from the 8 will call. So so it's working together, even though our project is separate and apart from what the gentleman from Northam is doing down there, and I wish him all the best with that. We have to still work together to make sure that the people of the Virgin Islands could get to and from, especially now it's a school season and stuff like that. So we will be having another closure. Hopefully I could work out something with the minister today, and hopefully that will be the last one, at least for this project.
Okay, do you have an idea about how many days that closure would likely take?
Ideally, I would press for about 5 days, but again, it is something, it might go on to 6, but we'll try to see 5 to 6 would be where we would be. It might go to 7, but with why I said that is because I think we will argue all the way to your magic number. But again, it's trying to figure out how to, because we have to do the manhole, and then as the minister, the premier rightfully said, there's one connection from the valve box that has to be made onto the main line that has already been put in place for a number of years now. The main line going down to the Paraquita Bay station. So we want to do all of that. Obviously reinstate the road. As you came here today before the drizzle, you realize the road is dusty. So a part of our contract is to take back up some of the fill we have now, put down some concrete base, and then the ministry will take over and do the asphalting. So it's not really, the main thing is the manhole, but the other thing is to make the final connection and to reinstate the road surface with some concrete and that kind of stuff. So when you pass the next time, it wouldn't be, you could hear the vehicles as they're going over right behind my shoulder. So a couple things we'll try to do one time, and then that'll be it, at least for the road, and then we'll just finish up the little odds and ends on the inside.
You said you want as many people to be hooked up to the system as possible to make it work properly. What's the minimum amount that you need to get it to?
Yeah, I think Mr. Freights would be able to attest to that.
All right, so in terms of the minimum and maximum, the plant that was developed and constructed at Paraquita Bay was developed for a 5,000 population coverage, right? So as I was advising the minister, that's if you estimate about 3 or 4 persons in a household, that is about 1,500 households, give or take, 1,500 to 2,000 households that we're looking to capture in terms of the capacity of the plant. So generally, the minimum of the plant could take generally about 25% of that. So you're looking at probably give or take maybe about 400 households that as a minimum. So in order for us to be able to really run the plant in the way that it ought to be run, We need to, and that's why we're really pushing in terms of let's get all the persons connected as much as we can. What we've advised as well is that there will be a first phase, which would be, as I mentioned, those persons in Fat Hogs Bay, those persons in Greenland, those persons in Longlow. They will get first opportunity to connect because the system in those areas are relatively complete in the sense of just making the connections to the households. The second phase would be like those persons in Chapel Hill, Major Bay, Paramtown, when we come through with the main walks, the gravity lines from Paramtown to Long Swamp. But we really need it. Yes, we can't take all of the population in the eastern Longlow, but at minimum we would estimate about 300 or 400 households to connect in this initial phase to really get the plant operating in terms of the amount of sewage that is coming in, because the plant would need not just the water, and that's also a key element as well. If we were to connect directly to the septic tank, we will be getting a lot more water, but we also need the solids as well in order for the plant to function. So it's a combination of two things. So that's why I said in some cases we might have to connect directly to homes in terms of the discharge point, and in other cases based on where the septic tank is located and where the house is located and so forth, then we will make those connections basically to the septic tank. But generally we want to get as much sewage solids as we could get and a substantial amount of households to be connected.
Okay, in preparation for that connection process, what should we gear our minds towards in terms of disruptions, probably closure of roads, digging up of yards and all that? What we should gear our minds for?
Okay, so as I mentioned and as was mentioned, obviously we'll do the assessment first, but there would be some minimal traffic interruptions. So if you look on the streets, you'll see there are manholes, and then we would have in some areas what we call lateral lines off of those manholes that, let's say, head towards a property or a collection of properties. In some cases, we will have to create some chambers off of the road in order for the households to connect onto those chambers, which would then eventually connect to the laterals, which then connect to the manholes. In some cases, there will be need for some closures or partial closures to add additional laterals. And this is where the assessment is key. So effectively, we have to come and look at your property. We have to see, because everything is going to be by gravity, we have to see where's the best manhole that we can connect you to. And then we have to create the structures or the systems to make that connection viable. So there would be some partial connections as we make the connections to the households. What we've done probably about 2 years back is that we actually installed some laterals along the route going by Fat Hogs Bay. So a lot of the businesses in those areas mostly businesses in those areas could easily come and connect onto the system because we did those laterals there. But perhaps in other areas, maybe in Longlow or some parts of Greenland, there would be some cutting of the road to make the connections, to install laterals and then make the connections to the households based on the assessment that would have to be done.
And my final question, would this be done by human resources from the Ministry of Communications or Work, or these are works that have to be contracted out?
Okay, so the human resources part in terms of the Ministry and the Water and Sewage Department is more for the assessment. Private contractors would have to be engaged in order to make to do the actual works in terms of trenching and laying of pipes and so forth. The reason being is, as I indicated, we need to be able to get as much households connected as quick as possible. So the resources in Water and Sewage Department won't be able to do that. So therefore we need private contractors to help to accelerate that process.
Thank you, the media, for being here, to help us send this message and this plea for residents in the area to connect to the sewage here in the Long Swamp area. I also want to acknowledge my team at the ministry, my permanent secretary. She is right here somewhere behind her hiding, P.S. Maduro Smith, Smith Maduro, and the supporting staff, the director for water and sewage, members from the ministry. But most of all, as I mentioned, we have taken a bipartisan approach in terms of getting the residents together. We have the representative from the 8th, we have the representative from the 7th, who is also the premier. And, we just want to encourage persons to sign up. We're happy that we are at this juncture in the project where we're asking for connection. You know, it shows that we've stayed committed to this project. And most importantly, we want residents to be able to flush with confidence. So again, I just say thank you for this opportunity. And I can't forget the contractor, BioSafe, for this project manager, also for the works that they have been doing and always being in communication and seeing this project to where we are today. Thank you.
We know that where you choose to bank matters, and it is your vote on what your funds do in strengthening our community. As your official Bank of Paradise, we invest and support the lifeblood of our economy by helping in the realization of personal goals for homeownership, education, and entrepreneurial visions, which support small businesses. We make it our place to connect with persons and worthy causes, and we have been doing so for more than 30 years. Where your money goes and what your dollars empower are your choice. And we thank you for choosing us, a bank that gives where it matters the most, for you, for our community, and a happier tomorrow. The National Bank of the Virgin Islands.
Large and small corporations in the BVI can't be wrong. Bovi HR, a BVI-based integrated solution of employee timesheets, leave tracking, scheduling, employment letters, HR processes, payslips, and tax reports, including NHI, Social Security, and Inland Revenue, will make your management of employees easier. While Bovi HR can cater to the needs of larger enterprises, it also works exceptionally well for small companies. To sign up, visit bovihr.com, that is BOVIHR.com, or call us at 342-9686.